The Minnesota Vikings have a big game in week 2 for their home opener against the San Francisco 49ers, who absolutely dispatched of the New York Jets and Aaron Rodgers on Monday Night Football. After the Vikings' dominant performance against the New York Giants in week 1, maybe, just maybe, despite what the national media is saying, the Vikings might actually have a chance to get to 2-0 and pull off the upset of the season thus far. And yes, it would be a bigger upset for the Vikings to beat the 49ers than it was for, say, the New England Patriots beating the Cincinnati Bengals in week 1. We'll touch on a few topics here this evening, including Harrison Phillips signing a 2-year extension. We'll go around the NFC North and take a quick look at the other games involving the Lions, Bears, and Packers, as well as my keys to victory against the 49ers. But if you haven't already done so, wipe your feet at the door and hit that like button. And if you haven't already done so, hit that subscribe button as well. On Tuesday, the Vikings announced that they have extended the contract of defensive lineman Harrison Phillips for 2 more years. Total contract could be worth up to $19 million, with $14 million of that guaranteed. I absolutely love this deal, and it is great to see a great player as well as a great guy in the community be rewarded in Harrison Phillips, a Walter Payton nominee finalist a couple years back, and has been not only a stalwart in the Vikings locker room, but also in the community. With this extension, this makes the third one that Kwesi Adofo-Mensah has done this offseason. The others, of course, being Justin Jefferson and Christian Darrisaw. I will say again, Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, when he took this job, was given the directive by the Wilfs to try to see if he can be competitive with Mike Zimmer and Rick Spielman's roster, and for the first year was. But it's been an outstanding job done by both he and Rob Brzezinski to manage to keep this team healthy from a salary cap standpoint. $14 million guaranteed over 2 years for a solid defensive tackle is going to look like a steal, assuming he stays healthy. With all the young talent that the Vikings do have on the defensive line, Harrison Phillips is the unquestioned leader of the front seven. And ultimately, I think this is a great move, as I've said, that we are going to keep him around for 2 additional seasons. There had been rampant speculation around the Vikings media that this was the next domino to fall, and ultimately I thought this was going to get done before the start of the season, as to not let Harrison Phillips go into the last year of his deal. But good to see it get done after week 1. I'm absolutely ecstatic for this guy. No, he's not Pat Williams or Kevin Williams, and he has improved his pass rush, but he's not a Dexter Lawrence. But what he is a solid run-stopping defensive tackle. Last week against the Giants, tackle for loss, got a sack, as well as a pass breakup. He was just all over the field. Although a lot of our defensive players were all over the field against the lowly Giants and Daniel Jones. But having said that, this is a great move for the Vikings. I anticipate that Cam Biden and or Josh Metellus will be the next 2 guys to get contract extensions, but good to see Harrison Phillips get locked up for another 2 years. And again, contract details, $14 million guaranteed, up to $19 million with the incentives. As far as what it's going to take for the Vikings to beat the San Francisco 49ers, it's going to be a tall task. Yes, it is unlikely that star running back Christian McCaffrey will play this week for the San Francisco 49ers. But that didn't seem to be much of an issue against the New York Jets on Monday Night Football. This Jordan Mason kid, 28 carries, 147 yards and a touchdown, 5.3 average. Defensively, the Vikings are going to need to stop the run. I know that's John Madden Football 101, but the simple fact is Mr. Irrelevant Brock Purdy, is a solid quarterback, but he's not an elite quarterback. He is propped up by the Kyle Shanahan system, and that all starts with their offensive line and their running game. The Vikings defensively are going to go up a notch in competition level, to say the least. When you're talking about guys like Brock Purdy and Kyle Juszczyk and George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, etc., going to be a little bit of a difference than playing Daniel Jones and company. Ultimately, shutting down the 49ers run game is a tall task. What the Vikings are going to need to aim to do is to limit and contain the 49ers run offense. Brock Purdy, for all the success that he has had over his first 2 seasons, is a completely different quarterback when he does not have a running game to rely on. If you take away the run game, Brock Purdy is acceptable to throwing up a couple of errant passes. We did have the interception to seal the game against the 49ers at home last season when, once again, very few people gave the Vikings a chance, and he does throw about 2 or 3 of those a game. But he's more susceptible to doing that if you can limit or take away his run options. If the Vikings are unable to slow down this 49ers offense, they're going to need to score 40 points. And I'm sorry, as much as we love what we saw from Sam Darnold last week, asking him to put up 40 points is a bit of a tall task. Bottom line is this. The 49ers are going to get their yards. Their offensive line is top-notch. I say that they're a top 3, but most consider them at least a top 5 offensive line. You are going to have to make sure you don't let Deebo Samuel run wild all over you, whether it's passing or rushing. George Kittle, he's going to get his. Kyle Shanahan is widely regarded as a top 5 head coach, and he always has been able to scheme up his offense. Even last season, when the 49ers visited us at US Bank Stadium, without Deebo Samuel, without Trent Williams, they were still in the game and had the ball with a chance to win. Last week against the Giants, you didn't have to blitz all that much to bring pressure. You were able to get that with 4 guys. I don't think that the Vikings are going to be able to sustain that against an offensive line like the 49ers, particularly when you've got a schemer in Kyle Shanahan. So on occasion, Brian Flores is going to have to bring those blitzes. Yes, last season, that worked for the most part, and they were able to pressure Brock Purdy, but the gig was up with about 4 weeks left in the season. This season, however, hopefully Brian Flores will be able to draw up a scheme that will only need to be blitzing every so often. But my strategy would be just blitz Brock Purdy from the get-go, and if he beats you, he beats you. But don't sit back and let him pick you apart, and don't sit back and let the 49ers run roughshod over your run defense. Get him off of his spot. Get pressure to him early. Let him get a little bit of happy feet. No, he's not going to feel the pressure the way Daniel Jones did, but don't just let him sit back there. Make him uncomfortable. And if you give up a couple of big plays here or there because you went down swinging, I can live with that. What I can't live with is 4 yards here, 7 yards here, 12 yards there. They will pick you apart. Again, without Christian McCaffrey, didn't seem to bother him last weekend against the Jets, and the Jets have a pretty decent defense as well. My strategy for Brian Flores, just come out and show the world that it wasn't just because you were playing the New York Giants and Daniel Jones that this defense is actually good. Offensively, yeah, 21 points last week was sufficient. It's not going to be against the 49ers. You've got to score at least 27, if not 31. You can't expect your defense to hold the 49ers to 6 points. The key to success last week was none other than Aaron Jones. We all love the performance we saw from Sam Darnold, but at the end of the day, Kevin O'Connell, you are going to need to do what you did last week and stick to the running game. Let's hear some of the comments that Kevin O'Connell said on Wednesday regarding Aaron Jones and how his running game came together against the Giants.
You saw Aaron have some explosive runs on some more tighter hitting kind of runs where he played the cutback really well. You saw him bounce, the play down by the goal line. The play was packaged with multiple other plays, so the intent of actually running that run as opposed to some others down there was really kind of centered around the look that we got. I think you saw a guy that he's pretty darn explosive with that burst, and then he's got great feel and vision.
Sam Darnold was very, very effective last week, but it all stemmed from the running game, how successful it was and how consistent it was. And the fact is, Aaron Jones only rushed the ball 14 times. I don't think that's going to be enough against the 49ers. And I'm not saying just go exclusively Aaron Jones. Absolutely get Ty Chandler in the mix as well. But Kevin O'Connell, don't revert back to what you've been the first 2 years where you want to be a pass-happy guy. You need to stick with the running game to allow the play action to be effective, to allow Sam Darnold to get into a rhythm, and most importantly, to keep your defense off the field. If the Vikings can continue to run the ball as effectively as they did against the Giants, that will open up the play action passes, and we can get our wide receivers more involved. Again, Justin Jefferson only had 6 targets last week for 4 catches, 59 yards, and a touchdown. It was one of the more pedestrian Justin Jefferson games we've ever seen in a win, but it was all it took against the Giants. That will not work, I don't think, against the 49ers. You're going to need to bring all the equipment. You're going to need to utilize Josh Oliver a little bit more. That pass that he had to get into the red zone on their first touchdown drive was outstanding, and I think that the Giants kind of figured, well, this is Josh Oliver. He doesn't catch a whole lot of passes. The 49ers aren't going to be fooled by that, but you do need to continue to spread the ball around. It is unlikely that we're going to see Jordan Addison in this game. As of Wednesday, he was limited in practice. I sincerely doubt that he's going to play because, again, he's got 2 bum ankles. It's week 2. No need to put him out there against a physical team whereby he could end up having lingering injuries throughout the season. So, Speedy Naylor, this is your opportunity to shine. Tristan Jackson, your opportunity to shine, as well as the tight ends. We're talking about Josh Oliver, Johnny Munt, Nick Muse. Get everybody involved. Don't try to go for the home runs early. What I'm saying is this team needs to be ball controlled. Yes, take your shots. And if you have an opportunity for a big play or a long touchdown, absolutely. But you need to get Justin Jefferson more than 6 targets. But I will say again, this all stems from the run game. If you put Sam Darnold, albeit behind an improving offensive line, you cannot afford to simply throw the ball 45 times against the 49ers and expect to win. You must stick to the running game. Even if it's not successful through its first 5 to 10 attempts, you got to stick with the run game, KOC. So at the end of it, in order to win this game, Defensively, you're not going to shut them down, but try to contain them to no more than 27 points. And some may say 27, that's a lot. Yeah, I'm being realistic. If the Vikings held the 49ers to 21 points or less, I will be ecstatic and pleasantly shocked. But 27, I think, is an accurate expectation. And ultimately, don't let them go beyond that. I can't expect this defense, despite how great it looked last week against Daniel Jones, to make that same kind of performance against the 49ers, albeit at home. Offensively, help your defense out by going on long, sustained drives. I know the 99-yard drive was brilliant and it was beautiful against the New York Giants. Probably not going to happen against San Francisco, but you must limit the turnovers. You can't have a CJ Ham type fumble. Yes, the interception by Sam Darnold. Okay, that was a great play by the defense. You can't afford to have more than one turnover in this game. In fact, you almost have to have zero. I'm not saying that you have to play a perfect game and that absolutely everything has to go right in order for the Vikings to win this game. I'm not saying that they're that far behind the 49ers, but as I said, they're going to have to bring all of the equipment. And they're going to have to play their best. No turnovers, sustained drives, eat up the clock, and most importantly, sticking with that run game. My official final score prediction will come up after the NFC North Roundup segment. Looking around the NFC North, number one pick Caleb Williams will lead the Chicago Bears into Houston, who narrowly escaped a 29-27 victory over the Indianapolis Colts last weekend. The Detroit Lions will have their second straight week facing a team that they had just played in the playoffs by hosting the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And the aforementioned Indianapolis Colts will be going into Lambeau to face Malik Willis. Starting with the Bears in Houston, hopefully, the Houston Texans will be able to continue to ride their hot offensive streak, putting up 29 points last week. C.J. Stroud, after 1 week of his sophomore season, does not appear to have the sophomore slump, throwing for 234 yards and 2 touchdowns. Joe Mixon, 159 yards and a touchdown as well. The Houston Texans offense was extremely balanced and very well prepared, along with their big 3 wide receivers and old friend Stephon Diggs. I think that the Bears are in for a rude awakening. They're not going to go up against a garbage quarterback like Will Levis, who just absolutely threw that game away to them. And I see the Bears taking their first L. There's not enough defense and special teams touchdowns that is going to be able to keep up with Houston's high-powered offense. Listen, last week, the Chicago Bears became the first team in NFL history to come back from 17-0 without scoring an offensive touchdown. Okay, you got that against a garbage team in Tennessee. I like the Houston Texans to win this game by at least 10 points, and maybe, just maybe, Caleb Williams can get 100 yards. In week 1, the Detroit Lions got to play the Rams again. This time, they will face the team that they beat in the divisional round of the playoffs, and Baker Mayfield-led Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Baker Mayfield absolutely was on fire last week, and they absolutely destroyed the Washington Commanders by a score of 37-20. Baker Mayfield, 4 touchdown passes, 289 yards. They're going to have something for the Detroit Lions. And yes, it was a hard-fought battle. It went into overtime Sunday Night Football. And yes, it was against the quarterback that Detroit had had for so many years in Matthew Stafford. I like Tampa Bay to get their revenge against the Detroit Lions. Yes, the Detroit Lions running game in crunch time absolutely ran through the Rams in overtime, scoring that game-winning touchdown. But they had ample opportunities to put the Rams away earlier. And I think that this Tampa Bay offense with Baker Mayfield and that trio of wide receivers is going to have enough revenge on their mind. I like the Buccaneers to win by at least 7 points to get some revenge for the team that took them out of the playoffs last season. And finally, that team to the east has their home opener against the Indianapolis Colts, who narrowly lost to the Texans last week in week 1. Anthony Richardson, only 9 for 19, but did get over 200 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. Had 56 yards on the ground, and Jonathan Taylor added another 48. We saw what Saquon Barkley did against that Green Bay Packers run defense. Third-year rookie wide receiver Alex Pierce came out of the gates last week with 3 catches, 125 yards, and a touchdown on only 3 targets. And I cannot wait to see him absolutely make Jair Alexander look like the stiff that he actually is. And that is on top of the fact that they lost Jordan Love. We don't wish injuries on anybody, but I do not see Malik Willis coming into Lambeau Field against a team that put up a great effort last week in the Indianapolis Colts and winning. I know that's usually a kiss of death when I'm picking all 3 teams in our division to lose, but realistically, if somehow, some way, the Vikings can pull out a victory, they could be sitting atop of the division after 2 weeks. While this home opener is going to be a tough challenge for the Vikings, I do believe they have an opportunity to win this game. If you can manage to stay ahead of the sticks, not get into second and third and long situations, and manage to control the clock, I do believe the Vikings have a chance to win this game. With the momentum they gained last week and the fact that the 49ers are coming off a short week and traveling 2 time zones to the east, I'm going to say Vikings are going to win 27-24, last second field goal by Will Reichard from at least 42 yards. I'm either going to be on something or onto something. We'll see which one it is. One more time on the way out, wipe your feet at the door, hit that like button. And if you don't already, hit that subscribe button. And please subscribe to the Vikings First and SKOL podcast feed on your favorite podcast aggregator to catch all of our episodes there as well. Thank you kindly, as always, for joining me. And for now, SKOL, to the next episode.